to the FIT4Privacy podcast with Punit Bhatia. This is the podcast for those who care about their privacy. Here, your host, Punit Bhatia, has conversations with industry leaders about their perspectives, ideas, and opinions relating to privacy, data protection, and related matters. Be aware that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are not legal advice. Let us get started.
Data privacy and marketing. How do you make sense of these two together? Well, that's a challenge. And if you are a marketer, the challenge accelerates or accentuates. And recently I met a person, an amazing marketer named Carlo van Tichelen, who has an interesting perspective. He's a psychologist by studies, and he has a marketing company. And he was talking about marketing from the perspective of human beings, from the perspective of real life. Because what are we trying to do in the GDPR? We are aiming, we are protecting the freedom of individuals, but in the digital world. But why can't we apply the principles from day to day life? Like, if you are in my shop, how do I behave? How do you behave? Why can't it be on the website? So, thoughts like this, and a very interesting and fascinating conversation with Carlo. So let's go and listen to him. Here we are with Carlo, who's a fabulous marketer here in Belgium, and we're going to discuss about GDPR and marketing. So welcome, Carlo.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for being with us. And let me start with a typical question we ask. When you think about GDPR, what's the one word that comes to your mind?
Law.
Of course it is.
In a way, when I see to GDPR, and as a marketeer, you always have the challenges on how to work with this law.
Mm-hmm.
And I always have this idea about law and values.
Yeah.
You only need laws where there are no values.
Yes.
So the reason it exists is because someone abused privacy.
Yeah.
The bad thing of laws, that is probably it's making it so tight for everyone where freedom is gone.
Right.
And the real idea is there where the values are right, GDPR has to be more flexible.
Yes. And I think that's a fascinating conversation which we had a few weeks ago also. We do want to live with values, but living with values is not everybody's thing.
No.
Everybody has a different level of intellect, perception of the world, the way they want to live and so on. And they value different things rather than understanding their values.
Yeah.
And to manage that world, we need to set some rules.
Yeah.
And that's where the laws come in.
Yeah.
And I think you have a background in psychology also. So
yeah, I when marketing works, it has to be with the mind of people, and so psychology is quite close to it. But the real thing is that a law is like one very small line, and the reality is that it's a gray border.
Yeah.
And you have to find what really feels good. It's like the consent, where if I send you an email
Mm-hmm.
and it's not relevant for you, you will feel it as spam.
Yes, it would.
But if it is an email that could interest you very hard and will give you a smile on your face and say, well, this is a business opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
even if I didn't ask it before, you will be glad that I sent it.
Yeah, it's what I value. If I value that information, it's good. But there's a second part to it. It must not be disturbing me. That means it should not be so frequent, 5 times a day.
Well, again, there, it's about relevance.
Yeah.
Because I happen to be on an email list of financial information in Belgium,
Mm-hmm.
and they will send me 3 times a day an email.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yeah.
Because it's relevant for me. So I decided that I could have those 3 emails a day.
Mm-hmm.
But if you would do it from publishing not relevant moments.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not news, it hasn't to be 3 times a day.
Exactly.
It's always the difference between what channel are you on. If you're on Twitter and you don't send any news value, you're not on the right channel.
Yep.
But if you would use TikTok for news channel, you would be wrong also.
Exactly.
So it always has to be with the channel, the relevance, and the relevance for the public you send it to. If you send a one-to-one mail, you can be quite personal.
Yeah.
So, and then it's always the balance between how far do I go on an automatic process and in a personal process. But yeah.
But I think you mentioned few important words. First is the choice. You or anyone as an individual chooses what they choose.
Yeah.
They make a choice. And they make a choice based on their values rather than being misled by something. So that's where transparency comes in. But you say choice. The second thing is relevant. What is relevant for me, I decide, but I can be guided in those choices, but not influenced to an extent that I'm manipulated. Now that's a fine line, thin line.
Yeah.
We don't know how to define.
It's a thin line. I try to I always try to step out of the virtual world and step into the real world. If I'm if on a Sunday morning I walk to the bakery, I ask for a long white bread every week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the same shop with the same people.
Yeah.
It would be lovely if they say, "Hi, Carlo, how is the day today? How are your kids? Do they want a small cookie?" Because they know me.
Yeah.
They see what I do. So relevance is getting appreciated for
Right.
who you are. So being personalized in a privacy rule, it would be you can't say "Hi, Carlo" before you asked, "Can I keep this information in my mind?"
Yeah.
So in a GDPR way, it would be wrong. But in a real way, it's what we like to be. So that's for me the gray zone. The gray zone is that GDPR is a fantastic law if it comes to my social security number, my health issues, my real private ideas, where nobody has information or needs information about.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to a day-to-day life,
Yeah.
we need to have the open way of conversation. It would be in that way, if the line was too strict, we would create a new way of racism.
That's true.
Because in a way, you would say you can't talk to that one because that's against the law. The last time I heard about those kind of laws, we said, "Oh, this is racism."
Yeah.
So GDPR it's a good thing when it's about critical information, and we need to think about it, but it can't freeze society.
That I agree. It's to protect the freedom of individuals rather
Yeah.
than to inhibit.
Yeah.
But it has to be contextualized.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
as the philosopher Gustav says, there is no truth, but there's only perceptions.
Absolutely.
So GDPR is not the truth. The truths are what we perceive, what we interpret, and that's where it goes a little bit challenging for all of us because we interpret it in the difficult way. So while we talk about consent, that's a nice segue into the cookie issue. Like GDPR says you need to respect consent, and cookies is another aspect where you give consent or choose consent. But if I look at the website, it's a nightmare. You go on a website, there's so many things, some of them go so technical, and you have to pick and choose. And even you and me, who are, call it experts in marketing or GDPR or, we find it challenging.
Yeah.
And that has to change. That is not sustainable.
But again, it's the same thing as I go back to the real life.
Mm-hmm.
If I go out of my door,
Mm-hmm.
I'm publicly visible.
Exactly.
So if I don't want to be seen, I have to hide behind a screen or in a car with black windows because I'm in the open.
Yeah.
So we have to see that there are two ways of being on the internet. There's being on the internet where you are in a public environment.
Yeah.
And if you are in a public environment, someone can
see
you. Someone can even see who you are. If you're a public person, they probably know. If so, we have to see that if you are on your computer, you step into a virtual open world.
Yeah, what we now call
Metaverse, where you walk in a street where people can recognize you. And of course, you have some rules, some let's say conversation rules. Some people shake hands. Some people are take more distance from each other. Some have some more values on how they dress and how they behave on the road. So I believe that computers will be configured in that way in the future. In the future, a cookie consent, today it has to do with information going to parties that don't know you directly.
Right.
So technical, we will go to a world without cookies. We go to a world with first-party cookies, where the information you share with someone, if I share the information with you without discussing
the digital world, things happen.
Sometimes things happen. So if I go to and now I lost, of course, my sentence.
No, you were explaining the context situation, that if you are in a situation, the expectations are different, and you were hinting at the expectation perspective, that you have an expectation. If I'm outside, I have an expectation that I would be seen, or I carry the black windows or something like that. And if I'm not willing to be seen, I see it inside. And then in the virtual world, in the computer world, I'm getting into a world which is digital, but there are some social norms which we have in the real world. There need to be social norms, internet norms, which the GDPR is trying to establish, but getting a little bit stricter or sometimes.
Well, I think GDPR is about the data privacy and about a special fields. But even if you are just into this virtual world, we still need to have some values.
Yep.
And even if we made a consent, it doesn't give us the right to be unpolite or to be rude or to abuse the information you've seen. Because, of course, if you go in a LinkedIn form, I give my data, my telephone number, my because I want to be reachable.
Yeah.
Do I want to be called at 3 o'clock in the night to buy a new telephone contract? Of course not. Yeah. That's not polite. You don't do it.
Yeah.
And in that way, it has to be punishable or restricted. But saying in that way, you can't be reached, you can't be fined, it would be a disaster for society.
Indeed, I think the GDPR lays out the rules, and that's where it is good at. But we need to be wise enough to incorporate them, to implement them in context and in relevance of the situation. Because you need to judge if this applies, if doesn't. It's not black and white saying you cannot or you can. No. Sometimes people say you cannot collect data, you cannot do marketing. Well, that's not the case.
If you can't collect data, you can't find any girlfriend anymore. That's because also, you can't see. It's against the law to see. Yeah. So I hope we still can be like humans.
Yeah.
And in that way, the communication must go on. But of course, what I tell one girl, I rather have the freedom not to be told to someone else. And that's about the first and the third party cookies.
Yes.
If I tell a girl, about myself. I don't want to have that girl talking about me to someone else. And that's about where the first party cookie comes in, where if I share information with you, I know you're trustable to know what information could be distributed to someone else and where you could be on a private level. So again, it's about this. I want to share information with you, first party cookie, and you decide whether you share parts of that information on a temporary or an unknown fact with the third party. And so I believe that that will be the case for the future, and it would be a good information because it will give also small business owners more power on their own information. Because today it's more like third party where the information is from the big platform, and a part of the information is for the business owners. So I hope that GDPR can balance this back into a right perspective.
That's the idea, I think. Bring in more responsibility to the ones who collect or have your data.
Yep.
And bring in more perspective or transparency around what they do with it.
Yep.
Nobody's saying do not share my data, but inform me. And if I feel it's a little bit more than what it should be, then I have the option to say no. And that's where the do not disturb or those things come in. But you mentioned about the small business. While you're also a marketer. And I have heard, and I know even when I'm giving consulting to clients, that marketing teams feel like GDPR is restrictive. While my personal perspective is it gives some rules with which to play, as we were talking about. It lays out what you can and what you cannot do, because I've seen some websites tracking your clicks, tracking who you are, and so on. Well, nobody's saying do not track visitors. Nobody's saying do not collect analytics on your website. People are saying do not track people. Because once you track them, then you want to follow them, then you want to chase them, then you want to market them. And that's where the line is being tried or line is being drawn. And how do you see all that?
Well, again, if you walk in my shop, I see what you do. That's a normal idea. If you re-enter my shop, I can remember what you did last time. So in a normal life, this is normal. What wouldn't be normal if I share this information with the shop besides me.
Right.
So again, it's about, can you track? Can you be just in a way that it would be in the offline world? I always reflect on that to know what would be human. And it's normal that I remember what you did. It's a good shopkeeper knows what you like. He even sees you come in and see, oh, he has a white shirt. He has some. So there are some visible information that can be used. So why not online? In the same way, knowing who comes in. So those clues are normal because it says something about someone. But sharing this information in a third party, that's not a way.
But the challenge here is when you're in a shop and I'm the shopkeeper, I know you're the shopkeeper, you observe this person came, that day he came, he's coming second time, third time, he was looking that corner, maybe let me go and help him. That's fine because you are one entity and he's another entity or she's another entity and you're helping them. And it's up to your intellect and capability to manage or understand or observe. However, in the real world, in the digital world, you, that is your website, now your shop is your website. Rather than you, it's the analytics or the trackers who are tracking on the behalf or observing on your behalf. And that those trackers are being delivered, being provided by someone else. It's like having a camera in your shop. Now,
I agree on that. But the question is, of course, if you have a camera in your shop, it will be recorded.
Yes.
And today it's recorded online, but before it was recorded just on a tape.
On a tape, and that's fine.
And so because the tape isn't shared. Of course, if you are the server with all the video on, you can't share it with third parties. That's it. So if you are an information technology company building platforms like email marketing platforms, it's not because someone drops their data on it that the platform can use it for other reasons, except if they how do you say it when it's not personal anymore, but still used for some technical modifications.
So legal or technical reasons. But that's okay.
Then it's okay. So in that way, it's again the same as in your shop. It's the same thing where if you have a video cam in your shop, you had like those tapes. You wouldn't buy a tape after 10 years for saying, on the 7th of August 1993, you were in my shop. That data can disappear. So again, that's again where it's about how long is it reasonable to keep it. Well, think if you had to leave it on a tape, you would take the same tape after a week, pull it in, and it will be taped on that. So it has to be relevant again.
It's the same concept which we were talking about in the real world, but we're implementing it in the new world, the digital world. It's complex for people because in a digital world, it's okay if you install a camera to protect your shop just at the entrance. It's okay if you want to put a camera that nobody's stealing it. That's fine, but you don't put a camera in the changing room. That's not okay.
That's not okay.
Yeah, and that's where
it's the same thing.
It is the same thing in the web shop. You are free to look at it. You are free to put it in the cloud rather than personal because that's easy. We are in a digital world. But then we expect the company which is keeping the cloud on your behalf is also respecting privacy, saying it's Carlo's shop. We are not supposed to look at it. Or maybe if Carlo allows, you can look at it in an anonymous way. And that's the differentiation or the transition from real world to digital.
Yeah. And in a way, some people hope that we track them and hope that we keep information.
Yeah.
I'm always stepping back to the real world. But in a way, we want to be remembered. Once we die,
we want attention.
Yeah, we want attention, but we also want to be remembered whenever we die.
Yeah, that's the concept of
it's something
legacy.
It's the legacy you leave.
Yeah.
If society would decide that all information has to be destroyed after a part or over time, we wouldn't know anything about the Greek history anymore. We wouldn't know anything about. So no, it's still allowable to keep some information about people for eternity, because that would be a wonderful way of building society on blocks by blocks. So privacy, but it still needs to give us the creativity, the insights, the way people were in a certain period. So I love it when I call to my mother's mobile phone and she isn't reachable. It's my father who speaks. Still speaks the words when we are not reachable, please enter the message. My father died a few years ago. So it's the one time I really hear my father again. So, and that way, he became eternal.
Yeah.
It would be a damage for me if those sounds would disappear. So please keep some information.
No, we do need to keep some information. Like now we are recording this podcast, or I write a book. We record this podcast because we want to reach to people.
Yeah.
And we want to reach to people 50 years later also, because somebody wants to see how in 2022 they were looking at privacy, a marketer and a person.
Yeah.
Or somebody finds my book and says, oh, he has a podcast. I want them to be reachable. But
Absolutely.
that's the legacy we are creating. And that's a different context. In that context, this information needs to remain relevant. But now I'm going to a shop, I observe, I go to Amazon, I do everything. That's okay for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. But then I close my account.
Yeah.
Or I change from Amazon India to Amazon Germany or Amazon Netherlands. And then at a certain point, the information needs to be stopped or paused or archived.
Yeah.
Not keep on bugging me, keep on sending me emails, even when I'm saying don't send me emails.
But then again, you're not relevant. The information is not relevant anymore to use anymore.
Yeah.
There is a difference between the right to being forgotten,
Yeah.
where of course, if I especially ask to delete information in a certain way, that possibility is an absolute right.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is, if you still have information used from 6 years ago on Amazon, then it's already a stupidity for Amazon, because information from 6 years old isn't right anymore.
Yeah, and that's the relevance part, the context part that someone needs to take care of.
For me, one of the most in marketing, one of the still the most difficult things to explain is that email addresses, they have a certain quality date.
Yeah.
And we all know it. And this time we talk about the great resignation, where we talk about a lot of people changing jobs. We never had as much mergers in companies than in the last few years. So domain names change, people change jobs, people even die, people have things changes. So email addresses that aren't used in a certain amount of time, and maybe that's 2-3 months, they already have a decay on quality.
Absolutely.
So it's important to keep your quality high.
Yeah, that's where for data quality or the data accuracy comes in,
Yeah.
because you want to keep checking if your data is relevant or not, and if you're sending emails and some people are consistently not responding, say for a period of 3 months or 6 months, take them out of your list, or maybe send them an email saying, hey, do
In
you
a
really
way,
want
make it automatically, because
Even better.
otherwise you wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And where I see the most damage made is where people say, "Oh, we made a merger, we found an Excel, please put in the information." Well, we're gonna send out an email that we made a merger, and then we find out that this information is like
That's
crap.
the most common question. I've had 2 or 3 clients saying in the marketing department, there's a new person, the old guy left, the new guy finds the old guy's Excel. We don't know from when it is, we don't know if it's relevant, but we want to try sending this offer.
Yep.
And I tell them, basis what? So don't start with an offer. Maybe say, we want to ask if you want to receive an offer. Do you want to be receiving mails from us? Are you still the right person? Because we are checking our database. We are
And maybe
cleaning our database.
we have to clean it before we ask anything.
Yeah.
You can already do some cleaning before asking something. There are a lot of public databases that people accept you to inform.
Yeah.
If I'm connected with you on LinkedIn, we share already some information and it's up to date, because otherwise you would change it.
Yeah.
I still believe that in a way, we also need some public way on saying this is the right information.
Yeah. So let's switch to a different situation now, and let me ask you a few questions, choice questions. So from a marketing perspective, would you choose the world with GDPR or without GDPR?
Where there are no values, you need
Values,
rules. So in a way, we need GDPR. We need a kind of law protecting people from abusing. We don't need we don't like to be spammed. We don't like our information abused. So we need GDPR.
Yeah, it's the same like security cameras on the red lights.
No.
If everybody was following the values, if everybody was following the road, we don't even need the red lights. We can respect somebody's coming, let me stop, let me give him way.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work, so we have red lights. Then they don't follow red lights, so then we need the camera. and then they don't follow the camera, then we have this average speed check, and so on and so forth.
So it will end with a self-riding car, and where we just can enjoy it, be free.
Yeah, that's how it will end. So we need GDPR, but the current formula or the current way, we know cookies will change. But let's say, what is the one thing you would change in GDPR from a marketer's perspective?
I think it would be a good idea if the European Union would give more hope to companies, where if you use it on a legitimate way, you wouldn't be in this tracking idea of being punished. Of course, there are some lines, and we need those lines. But some people became freezed about it. Being freezed is never good.
No, it's not.
That wasn't the intention of the European law. That isn't the intention of lawyers. It isn't the intention of the general public to be locked down. And so please inform all business people or all users that there are still legitimate ways to have information. It still is responsible to write the names of your schoolmates on the picture when you were a little small person, and to keep this information. So it's...
Yeah, I think too much, or just black and white interpretations.
The black and white interpretation, it's the biggest mistake we made.
Yeah, I think, and the intention was to catch the big tech, the abuse of information. But in that, the rules needed to be strict. But then there are a lot of real life situations, real life scenarios wherein these kind of things need to be allowed.
Yeah.
Because I even heard an incident somewhere in Europe. Someone wanted to install a security camera in their house just to watch who's coming in my house on my door. It had a different angle and it was seeing, because sometimes the doors are adjacent. You're seeing the other one complained to police, GDPR. Well, yes, GDPR, but it's a mutual thing you have to solve. You don't have to go to police. You have to just discuss with the neighbor.
And if I'm standing there, I can still see it, so it's a public place.
Yeah. So it's outside your home is a public place, inside your home is a private place. So nobody's peeping in, but there will be a little bit left, little bit right, and you need to be flexible.
Yeah. Again, it's
But
it's common sense.
It is common sense, and given the last conversation we had a few weeks ago, I know that this can last hours, but here we generally keep it short.
Okay.
So I would say it was fascinating to have you. And now, if someone wants to know what can you do for them as a marketer, what would they need to keep in mind?
Well, as a marketer, we have a full agency with all specifications from strategy to design in this field, mostly for Belgium customers, but also on the international level. Our specialized is in marketing automation. In how can we process all this data used in the first party and make information relevant. Use this relevant information. In a way, I dream about websites that would offer me the same service as in a physical shop, where they recognize me, where they help me based on who I am, how I am, and how the future is. And remember, it's not because our age says it's not allowed that our kids are thinking in the same way. No. They see the digital world already as a broadened way of their physical world. So they will learn how to behave in it. The reason we have so much abuse is because people weren't ready to enter the world.
Yeah, and we've seen two worlds. We didn't see the world. We've seen the world before the iPhone, and now we're in the iPhone. But our kids and the younger generation have seen the only iPhone generation, so
Yeah.
they will adapt more swiftly. But if someone wants to then contact you for marketing solutions, automation, or the real world
Yeah.
perspective on digital marketing, how can they get in touch?
They can get in touch, of course, by my email, by my LinkedIn profile, and on my website. So the website is phobosactor.be. You can reach me at my LinkedIn profile, Carlo van Tichelen. And yeah, all information is basically online. So even if you just Google me, you will find me because I'm trackable.
Okay, so Carlo is trackable and he has a business or real world perspective on business, and that he can help you on marketing automation. So thank you so much, Carlo.
Thank you.
FIT4Privacy helps you to create a culture of privacy and manage risks by creating, defining, and implementing a privacy strategy that includes delivering scenario-based training for your staff. We also help those who are looking to get certified in CIPPE, CIPM, and CIPT through on-demand courses that help you prepare and practice for certification exam. Want to know more? Visit www.fit4privacy.com. That's www.fit4privacy.com. Thanks for listening. If you liked the show, feel free to share it with a friend and write a review. If you have already done so, thank you so much. And if you did not like the show, don't bother and forget about it. Take care and stay safe. Until next time, goodbye. If you have questions or suggestions, feel free to drop an email at hello@fit4privacy.com. That's hello@FIT4privacy.com.